The ring had always been more than just jewelry to Ella. It wasn't merely a shimmering band of gold encased with flawless diamonds. It was the last tether to her grandmother, the only person who had ever truly understood her. It was a promise of resilience, a symbol of survival. After years of being overlooked in her own family, Ella had earned this piece of history. It was hers. The way love should have been hers, the way justice should have favored her. But now, it was gone. Ella stared at her parents, her pulse drumming in her ears. "You did what?" Her voice barely made it past the suffocating air in the dining room. Margaret and Daniel sat stiffly across from her, their expressions tight with unease. Claire, ever serene, took a sip of her lavender tea, a satisfied smirk tugging at the corners of her lips. Her father cleared his throat, trying to sound reasonable. Claire needed to heal Ella. Bali has the best wellness retreats in the world. We heal. The word curdled in her mouth. "You sold my ring, to send her on a vacation." Claire rolled her eyes. "It's not a vacation, it's a spiritual journey. You wouldn't understand." Ella felt something inside her splinter. She wouldn't understand. She had understood plenty. She had understood when her parents had asked her to sacrifice again and again for Claire letting her sister have the bigger bedroom, the better school, the endless excuses for her failures. She had understood when Claire had effortlessly gotten their love, while Ella had received only duty, only expectation. And now, she understood something else. She had never truly belonged in this family. The rage hit her fast, white-hot, uncontrollable. "Do you know how much that ring meant to me? How could you just—" "It was just sitting there, Ella." Her mother's tone was gentle, as if trying to placate her. "Claire needed the money more than you needed the ring. You'll be fine, 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 fine." Ella's breath shuddered. Her hands clenched at her sides, shaking from the effort to contain herself. She could feel her world shrinking, collapsing under the weight of their betrayal. No apology, no remorse, just justification. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to stand. "You're right. I will be fine, because I'm done." Margaret blinked. "What are you saying?" Ella met her gaze with a cold, unwavering stare. "I'm leaving." Ella stood in the center of her bedroom, her hands trembling as she folded the last of her clothes into a worn leather bag. The weight of finality pressed down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. This was it. She was leaving. Walking away from everything she had ever known. Her childhood bed, the walls that had heard her muffled cries, the family portrait on the dresser, a perfect image of unity that had never truly existed. She picked up the frame, studying their faces one last time. Claire's radiant smile. Their parents standing behind them, arms draped lovingly around their favored daughter. Ella wasn't blind to it anymore. She never had been. With quiet deliberation, she placed the frame face down on the dresser. She would no longer be part of this story. Her fingers hovered over the desk drawer before pulling it open. Inside lay her grandmother's old fountain pen, the one she had used to write letters filled with warmth, wisdom, and the kind of love Ella had never found in this house. Ella picked up a blank page, pressed the pen against it, and began to write. "I won't beg for your love anymore. You made your choice. So I'm making mine. Greater than, I wish I could say I forgive you. But I don't. Maybe one day, I will. Or maybe I'll forget you altogether. Don't try to find me. I won't be waiting." She folded the letter, sealing it with a single press of her palm. No signature. No plea for them to understand. They wouldn't. Her bag felt heavier as she slung it over her shoulder. When she stepped into the hallway, she expected a confrontation, a last-minute attempt at reconciliation. But the house remained unchanged. No hurried footsteps, No desperate calls of her name. No one stopped her. And that, more than anything, told her everything she needed to know. Ella stepped outside, into the quiet evening air. She paused for a breath, then tightened her grip on the bag. With one last glance at the house she had once called home, she turned and walked away. Claire had never been the type to seek healing. She had always been reckless, entitled, calculating. What if the trip had never been about healing at all? The thought hit Ella like a cold slap. Determined, she sat in front of her laptop, pulling up Claire's social media, expecting mindfulness retreats, meditation sessions, maybe even an overpriced self-discovery seminar. Instead, she found beach clubs, lavish parties, designer outfits, a new luxury villa rental. Her stomach twisted. This wasn't healing. This was indulgence. Claire hadn't gone to Bali to fix herself. She had gone to celebrate at Ella's expense. Ella's fingers tightened around her phone as she scrolled through the images, each one a gut punch, each tagged with strangers she'd never seen before. And then, one comment caught her eye. "You killed it last night, Claire. Drinks on you again." Ella clicked the profile, revealing a woman named Lena, whose photos showed Bali nightlife, high-end resorts, and the kind of reckless luxury Claire had never been able to afford until now. Lena might know something. A lead, a person, a truth waiting to be uncovered. Ella took a deep breath, then typed out a message. "Hey, Lena. I'm Claire's sister. Heard you two have been hanging out in Bali. I was wondering if you could tell me more about her time there." The moment she hit send, a sense of inevitability settled over her. Claire had fooled their parents, but she wouldn't fool Ella. Not anymore. The humid air clung to Ella's skin as she stepped off the plane, her heart pounding with a mixture of rage and anticipation. Bali, a place Claire had supposedly come to heal, but Ella wasn't here for tropical beaches or soul-searching retreats. She was here for the truth. The streets buzzed with energy, tourists weaving through markets, surfboards strapped to mopeds, the scent of grilled seafood drifting in the warm breeze. But Ella had no time to soak it in. She had a meeting to get to. She pushed open the doors of the upscale lounge where Lena had agreed to meet her. At first glance, Lena seemed harmless, sun-kissed skin, perfectly styled hair, the effortless glow of someone who thrived in Bali's luxurious nightlife. But Ella had learned that appearances meant nothing. Lena took a slow sip of her cocktail before meeting Ella's gaze. "Didn't think you'd actually show." Ella slid into the seat across from her. "I don't have time for games. Tell me about Claire." Lena smirked, swirling the ice in her glass. "What's there to tell? She had a damn good time, that's for sure." Ella's stomach tightened. Was it a retreat? A wellness program? Any kind of healing at all? Lena let out a short, amused laugh. "Healing. Sweetheart, your sister wasn't looking for peace. She was throwing money around like it was nothing. Villas, clubs, parties, it was all excess." Ella's breath hitched. "Where did the money go?" Lena shrugged. "Half of it's probably gone. Spent on designer outfits, yacht rentals, and whatever else she convinced herself she needed." It was worse than Ella had imagined. Claire hadn't even tried to hide it. She had flaunted her betrayal across Bali's elite social scene. The weight of it crushed Ella's chest, tightening her throat. Lena studied her for a moment. "Look, I get why you're angry. But Claire's not the only one who knew how to play people. You should talk to the guy who helped her, James." Ella's jaw clenched. Another name, another lie. The deception ran deeper than just Claire. She stood, gripping the strap of her bag, determination burning through her. "Then tell me where to find him." Lena smirked, tossing a card onto the table. "Good luck, sweetheart." Ella didn't hesitate. She grabbed the card, pocketed it, and walked away one step closer to exposing everything. The house looked exactly as she had left it, pristine, carefully curated, utterly hollow. But this time, Ella wasn't here to beg for understanding. She was here to end the lies. She stepped through the doorway, the sound of her boots hitting the polished floor, echoing in the silent space. Her parents sat in the living room, their faces twisting into shock at the sight of her. Claire lounged on the couch, flipping through her phone, completely unbothered until she looked up and saw the storm in Ella's eyes. Ella dropped the folder of printed transactions onto the coffee table. The evidence spilled out: receipts, bank transfers, lavish purchases from Bali, each one a blade cutting deeper into the deception. You thought you were funding Claire's healing. Her voice was dangerously calm. She spent it on parties, yachts, designer clothes, every indulgence imaginable. Margaret paled. That's not possible. Claire wouldn't. Claire scoffed, crossing her arms. Don't be dramatic, Ella. You don't understand what I needed. Ella's fury exploded. What you needed? You needed my ring. You needed our parents' blind trust. You needed me to disappear so you could keep leeching off them. Daniel clenched his jaw, scanning the receipts. His hand trembled slightly. Claire? Tell me this isn't true. Silence. Claire rolled her eyes. So what if I had fun? You both agreed I deserved this. Margaret sucked in a sharp breath, reality slamming into her. We sold Ella's ring for this. Ella's chest burned, not from vindication, but from the ache of what had been lost. You didn't just sell a ring. You sold your trust in me. You sold your loyalty. You sold the last reason I had to believe I ever mattered to you. Her parents crumbled, their perfect illusions shattering around them. Claire, ever shameless, tossed her phone onto the couch. It's done. Get over it. Ella exhaled slowly, shaking her head. I already did. She turned on her heel and walked out the door, leaving behind the wreckage of a family that had never truly been hers. She wasn't looking back. The house was silent. Not the comfortable kind, but the kind that weighed down every breath thick with regret. With words left unsaid, with the heavy realization that nothing would ever be the same. Margaret sat at the kitchen table, eyes hollow, fingers clutching a cup of tea she hadn't touched. Daniel paced near the window, hands stuffed deep into his pockets. The illusion of their perfect family had shattered. Claire was gone. Not physically, but she might as well have been. The trust their parents had so blindly given her had turned to dust. Ella knew they wouldn't say it aloud, not yet, but the grief in their expressions was undeniable. They had gambled everything on Claire, and they had lost. But Ella wasn't here to mourn. She slid a document onto the table. Margaret blinked, glancing down. What is this? Ella's voice was steady. A financial claim. I want my money back. Her father looked up sharply. Ella. She met his gaze. You stole from me. The words were unforgiving. That ring wasn't yours to sell. You can either return the money or fight me in court. Margaret inhaled sharply. We thought we were helping. Ella leaned forward. You weren't helping me. You were enabling Claire. Daniel rubbed a hand over his face, the weight of guilt pressing into his features. We don't have that kind of money anymore. Ella already knew that. The truth was, she wasn't sure if she cared about getting the money back. It wasn't about numbers, it was about accountability. Claire had fled Bali once her world started crumbling. The fallout had followed her home. Her name was dragged through the mud. Online former friends exposed her spending habits. Brands withdrew their sponsorship deals, and the lavish life she had built on lies was disintegrating around her. But none of that mattered to Ella. She had spent years being disregarded, dismissed, unseen. Now, she was taking control. Margaret hesitated, eyes glossy with unspoken apologies. Do you hate us? Ella tilted her head slightly. I don't hate you, but I don't trust you either. She stood, gathering her bag, her presence in the house nothing more than a whisper of what used to be. And I don't think I ever will. Without another word, she walked out, leaving them behind with nothing but the wreckage of their choices. The air felt lighter. The weight that had pressed against her chest for years, the suffocating need for validation, for acknowledgement, for love that was never freely given, was gone. Ella stood on the edge of the lake, the water still, undisturbed, mirroring the sky like glass. It was the same lake where her grandmother used to sit, telling stories about resilience, about dignity, about knowing when to let go. She had spent so long wondering if she would ever forgive, but forgiveness wasn't the answer. Acceptance was. She had accepted that her parents would never fully see her, that Claire would never change, that she had been forced to carve her own path through betrayal and loss, and she had survived. With slow purpose, she reached into her pocket, pulling out the only thing she had left from her grandmother, the fountain pen, the same one she had used to write that final letter before walking away. She smiled softly, pressing the tip against an empty journal page. I am not defined by what they took from me. I am not lost. I am free. The wind shifted, carrying the words away as if they had finally found their place. Ella looked out at the horizon, and for the first time in a long time, she wasn't looking back.